Hey, this is Daniel Norton here in New York City. Today we're going to make a portrait with super soft bounce light. So bouncing light is a great way to make it both softer, because you're making it bigger generally, right? And make it more diffused, because when the light hits, let's say a white bounce card or a white wall, it's going to diffuse and spread out. So we're going to take the properties of a small flash, namely small and specular, and we're going to turn them upside down and make it large and make it so soft, right? And we're going to make it diffuse, and we're going to make a beautiful, even beauty shot, something that you could use for beauty clearly, but also portraits of just about anybody. So I got my friend Marissa coming. We've used her for a lot of beauty stuff. She's a great subject for that. We've used beauty dishes, of course. We've used soft boxes, all kinds of different things. But by using the bounce light, we're going to create a very different shot, a shot that's just like open and airy and just very gentle. So as I said, I'm going to use a small flash. I think that's really one of my big motivators here, was to not only show the extreme of it, right, using such a small flash to create this, but also most people are going to have a small flash. If you're getting into photography, it's one of the first lights you pick up, right? So if you've got a small flash and you feel kind of boxed into a corner because you're just thinking, oh, this is such a hard light, doesn't really look good, this video is going to show you how you can really make the most of it. Okay, so the gear for this is going to be super simple stuff that if you're getting into lighting, you probably have. I always say the first light you should start with in flash is a speed light, so that's what we're going to use for this. Now, this is a ProPhoto A1. It's a pretty powerful speed light, but the amount of power you need is really going to be based on where you are, right? I'm in a pretty bright space. We're shooting a video. I've got lights on so you guys can see me. So I'm going to need to shoot at like a 5.6 at 100 ISO to get rid of the light in the space. If you're in a darker space, some office building or something, you could probably get away with a less powerful light. In any case, what we're going to do is we're going to take this very small, hard, right, very efficient light, and we're going to turn it into a larger, softer, diffused light. And how we're going to do that is by bouncing. So we're going to do two things, actually. We're going to bounce, and we're going to use some diffusion. The diffusion, which I'm going to use a piece of silk here, I'm not going to just put it in front of my whole light like we've done with gels in the past. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cover part of the light. That serves two purposes. One is that it's going to divide the light, right? So some of the light, I'm going to cover the bottom of it. The light that's hitting Marissa first, because she's closer to the light source, this will help cut down the amount of power, so it'll dim that exposure a bit, and it'll also help because that's all going to be highlight, right? Her hair, her shoulders are all going to be highlight. It'll help diffuse it, right? The rest of the light, the bare raw light that's going past, is going to bounce off these foam core boards that are very simple boards. You can pick these up in any art store, right? This is a pretty large one, about 2 by 3 foot. That's going to serve as our key light. The raw light's going to hit it. It's going to hit the white board. It's going to become diffuse because it's bouncing, right? It's also going to become larger, so we're going to have soft and diffuse. Now, to give us that full kind of like shadowless, if you want, right, light from the front, that really open light, we're going to use two other pieces. Now, I've got silver on one side, white on the other. Depending on the subject you're photographing, you may want to use silver if you want that high contrast of using like shiny makeup, that kind of stuff, like a more of a beauty shot. But for a portrait, I like white. And instead of just using classic clamshell, right, we're going to put them in kind of a V shape. And that V shape is going to allow us to kind of adjust the contrast and kind of wrap it around the face a bit more, making it a little bit more, like I say, big and open. Okay, so I have Marissa here, looking beautiful as always. Anyways, yeah, so this is going to be really simple, right? The idea of bouncing light is just such a simple idea, but such an effective idea, especially when you're working with just a single light source. So in this case, I'm even in a pretty bright space, and I'm just using one speed light. I have a ProPhoto A1. It's above her. Now, obviously, the light is going to encounter Marissa's shoulders and her head before it gets to the card that I'm going to use to bounce in, which means that it's going to be brighter, right? So we're going to get that hair light effect. But I don't want it to completely blow out, so I'm going to try to balance it a little bit by using a gel. This is a piece of silk. I'll talk about diffusion in a future video. I know you guys have mentioned that you wanted to know more about them, but just the long and short of it is the silk has lines going through it, and depending on which direction you put it, it will help spread the light one way or the other. So I'm going to kind of spread the light wide as opposed to narrow. So that's why I'm using this gel in particular. And I'm just going to use a white foam core card for the rest of it. But before we do anything, let me just show you with the light behind Marissa like this, if she looks right at me, I just turned the flash on full power currently. And I just set my settings to 200th of a second, 5.6, 100 ISO. If I just take a picture, remember I'm in a white studio, so light's bouncing everywhere. We're already getting an exposure on her. it's very raw, right? It's not controlled, it's not perfect, it's a little kind of overexposed on her hair. So what we want to do is take this and make it better, right? We're going to improve on what we could get very simply with one light. And just so you know, just in case they think otherwise, if I take a shot with no light, black frame, right? So all that light you're seeing here is a single flash. It's lighting the wall behind her, it's lighting the front of Marissa's face even because the light's bouncing everywhere. But let's get this thing a little bit more controlled. So I'm going to put my gel up, so I'll have Marissa step off for a second so I can go on set. And I'm just going to do it now. Keep in mind that the ProPhoto, of course, comes with a little dome, and you might say, hey, I have one of these domes. That's great, except I don't want to spread all the light out. I just want to kind of get part of it. Because remember, if I block some of the light that's going past her, like over her head, then what we're going to do is we're going to lose light, and we need as much light as possible. So I'm going to just use tape for this to keep it simple. And I'm going to cover about a third of the bottom of the flash. I'm going to bow it out a little bit. We've talked about this before when putting gels on. We want to bow it out a tiny bit, not, in this case, not flat against it, because we want the light to hit it and spread out. Okay, so that's there. Let's have you come back in and let's see the difference. I'm keeping all the settings the same. Let's just see what we get. Again, this is just with the gel on there now. Okay, see, we can see that it has toned it down if you look at her shoulders. I don't want that one. We look at her shoulders a bit, we can see a little bit of difference here where it's kind of blown out here. Again, I haven't affected the exposure. I've kept the power the same. We're probably still going to have to mess with the power. But we can see that that's helped because diffusion takes care of your highlights, and her shoulders being blown out is an effect of the highlights. So I think we're going to take that light, which is in my C group, and I'm going to dial it down half a stop. And let's take one more shot. There we go. That looks pretty good. We're only getting really super hot blown out on the back of her head, which is what we want. We want that hair light effect, right? And her shoulders are no longer blown out. But of course, the light on her face is very dull. And nobody wants dull light on Marissa. Marissa is not dull. So for that, we're going to now use a reflector card. So I'm essentially going to take this. This is about 2 by 3 foot, roughly. So the size of kind of your kind of standard softbox. And I'm going to move it in as close as possible, capturing that light and bringing it in from above. There we go. We can see now that we've got, I haven't changed any settings, I haven't changed any power settings. Look at the difference. Well, of course, I wasn't looking through the camera, so it's out of focus, but look at the difference, right? We've popped her out, and we could probably even adjust our exposure even more once we get this thing set up. But generally speaking, this is going to be our setup. So I'm going to have Marissa step out for a second, and I'm going to set all this up, and then we'll bring her back in. Okay, I've got everything roughly in place. I'm going to move Marissa in now, and we'll adjust the lights as we need. So Marissa, come on now. Come on down. You are the next contestant. Okay, so we've got her in here. This is also very useful if you've got, a very rambunctious subject and you want to keep them distance. But yeah, so I'm looking through the camera. I'm making sure that none of this stuff is in the shot, but I want to get it as close as possible without it being in the shot. So again, I'm not going to change anything yet. I just want to see where we're at. This is with 3 lights. Or 3 reflectors, wow, right? Look at how much more light is on her now, right? Because all this light is kicking back in. So now we can adjust our exposure. We could probably even go so far as to even use TTL at this point, if we wanted to, but one simple trick is to grab my exposure and capture one, and I'm just gonna bring it down until it looks correct, which is probably about right there for Marissa. That's about a stop or so. So I'm just gonna take my light, I'm gonna dial it down and stop. I'm going to do a stop and 2/10 just to see where we're at. Here we go. Now these are white cards, guys. You could use silver cards too, depending on the contrast you want to create. But I think for somebody like Marissa, with kind of a lighter skin tone, pale, as I like to say, she's the pale rider. We're going to get silver would really cause a lot of contrast, and we don't want that. We want this to be very natural. I'm going to go a little lower. This way slightly and let her shoot a few. Trying to bring your chin up a bit, there we go. We can actually fix it. You're kind of a little.
Oh yeah, here.
You're looking like a ragamuffin. Nice. Right, nice and soft and pretty. What's cool about this, guys, too, is that this is, you don't have to use a hard light source, but it definitely helps because of the efficiency. I mean, as far as behind her, you could put a softbox back there. But wow, that's really clean. Now, if you wanted more contrast on her face, if you didn't want it to be so soft, we could raise or lower these two side reflectors. So let me just, I'm gonna step up for a second. I can move into the set. I'm just gonna drop these guys about 6 inches. And that's gonna give me less fill. It's still gonna be fill, because I think without the fill, it's gonna be two directional. We want a beauty light, right? So we want it to be kind of filled in. Okay, whenever you're ready. And again, not changing the power or anything, just, and we can see now that we have a little bit more contrast. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for, right? This is a little bit flatter, and that's a little bit more contrast. In either case, we get the beautiful catch lights, and even with a subject like Marissa, it looks good. We're actually gonna dial it up 2/10, and we're gonna shoot a couple more. Good, good. This is great headshot light, guys. This is great just portrait light. It's nice light. It kind of will be forgiving and looks nice on pretty much any kind of a subject, even a big goofball. Yeah, it's nice. Now again, you are gonna get that kind of blown out top of her head. You could avoid that a little bit by raising the angle of the light. We could mess around with it or raising where the gel sits. There's lots of things we could do here. It's just a matter of finessing it. Let's just do one quick change and see how it works out for us. So step out one more time for me. I think I like the reflectors up higher though. I think I like that flatter, more angelic light. So I'm gonna raise these guys back up where they were. And of course, guys, if you're doing this with a lot of different subjects, you can raise those up and down pretty simply. So I'm just gonna take, I know you probably can't see me, I'm just taking the gel and I'm gonna raise it up and I'm gonna cover, let's say, half we're gonna cover half. Also, I should point out that this Pro Photo Head, like most speedlight type lights, it zooms. I've got it on the widest zoom. Whenever you're ready. And you might be thinking, well, you could zoom it in tighter and that will get it off the top of her head. It will, but then I'll cover less of the cards. Remember, this is all a balance, right? We want to cover the cards as much as possible. Yeah, actually, for some reason you're taller. I don't know why you're taller now, because you're closer to me.
Oh.
Yes, you are. There we go. Right. Like all of a sudden, Marissa's always trying to get taller. Oh yeah, we can see. That was a perfect example. Again, we still have blown out areas in the hair, but it's definitely more kind of smooth than it was. So let's bring that in again. Let's look. Make sure our exposure is good. It is. I'm gonna go 1/10 brighter on the light. And let's shoot a couple more and we'll get this. That's it, good. Nice pretty smile, good, good. You feel like you're trying to sneak under the boards.
Sneak out of what?
You look like you're trying to sneak under those boards. But really though, guys, it's nice and simple, right? We get a lot of looks and it's just a nice, clean look. One more shot just to finish it off. Boom. Okay, there we go. Come just this way a little bit. This way, a little bit more. Okay, I'm just trying to do a thumbnail because the logo has to go in the corner. There we go. Listen, you guys shoot a thumbnail when you have a chance, right? There, that's the thumbnail. What do you think? Is that a good thumbnail for you? Want to do one more? Fix that one piece of hair. It's curling. You gotta sell it. Sell the sizzle so people will click this video. If you're watching this video, guys, was it this amazing thumbnail that Marissa's doing right now that sold you? Is that what got you to watch the video? Yes, it was definitely that, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, these are all great. You should make them all of them.
How many thumbnails can we possibly have? Yeah, nice.
Okay.
Your hair's out of control. That's perfect. Now we know why Marissa always has brushes.
I know my hair's out of control. It's so cute.
Yeah. Oh, one more shot. Never stop. But yeah, nice and easy, guys. Again, I've killed all the light in the space by setting my camera at 200th of a second, 5.6, 100 ISO. I am using one single speed light, part of the head covered in diffusion, to give me some diffused light on her shoulders, right? Right there, but nice specular light on her face, or I should say hitting these cards, which then bounces back, right? So that specular light then becomes diffused. It also becomes bigger and softer with this big soft light covering her face. Because just in case, I know it was a long time ago, it was probably like a minute ago in the video, but just in case you don't remember, you know, that's what it looked like before, right? So that versus this, and they're both just a single light. It's clean, it's nice light, right? Works for just about anyone, and it's pretty easy to do with a single light. Okay, so this is the moment of truth. This is Marissa's first ever photo shoot, also mine. But she's gonna go through and make sure she has something she likes. Always when we're shooting, we wanna review the images with the subject, make sure they're getting what they like, if they want more of something, if they want to shoot, you know, if they didn't get something they want, you wanna know now while they're on the set. So go ahead and look, and let me know that you're satisfied.
Gorgeous! Oh, they're amazing. Amazing.
Huh. Who's that girl?
Who is that?
Who is she?
Who could she be?
So mysterious. But you are mysterious there. Not bad, right?
Not bad.
Not bad. So I call it a successful shoot. Nice and simple. Like I said, one light, a gel, some cards we got down at the store. You can get these at, you know, whatever construction store.
Whatever construction store.
We're not allowed to. They're not giving me any money, so they're not getting any, no, you know, arts and crafts store, whatever. I will put Marissa's information in the description. You can follow me, Daniel Norton Photographer. Be sure to subscribe to Adorama TV, and I'll see you next time on set.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you can watch more of them by clicking on one of these. And you should totally subscribe and ring the bell. And we'll see you next time on set.